Thanks for joining me here again today on a beautiful Monday morning. I am coming to you straight from my backyard. Today it is pouring, it is coming down. I have the cats out here with me. You might even hear the dogs in the background. If they're in their enclosure, they're barking, and for those of you who know me, you know that I live on a small farm, so you might hear roosters at times. Nature at its best, right? But I wanted to be in this element because I am in a good place, and I wanted to share some things that I've been dealing with, because in talking to friends, family members, or even strangers, with what I do for work, I meet a lot of people and we have a lot of conversations, and these people share a lot with me, more than you would expect, being that we're strangers. But there's something about trusting something maybe that is intimate or personal with a stranger, because there's very little judgment, or simply because you don't worry about ever seeing them again. So I realized that I have so much in common with these people. I realize just how much that I'm going through and what I've gone through in the past few years, and that I'm not alone and you're not alone. So I'm going to share in this particular episode three to four things that have been weighing heavy on me. And this is going to be really open, really raw. I'll be vulnerable in this particular episode, which is why I don't have a guest or a co-host with me today. I'm going to share what's on my heart, mind, and soul, and hopefully you find that you can relate and realize that you are not alone on your own journey. I'm going to touch on regrets. I'm going to touch on making horrible decisions when it comes to finances, taking risks. I'll touch on mortality, the concern that we have once we hit a certain age, watching friends pass away, and finally, gratitude, what still matters the most to me. So hang with me. It may not be as exciting of a conversation, but it's a much needed one, or more of a monologue really, but I hope you're here with me. I hope that you're listening, and I hope that we can connect. And if I, in any kind of way, help you with this conversation, don't forget to reach out. You can always email us at manhoodmatterspodcast@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Or just leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a comment. Let us know how this was or helpful, or how it had an impact on you. So, without further ado, welcome to Manhood Matters. Let's get to it.
Making a choice, speak less, great, no sugar to cope. From a black man's lens, each word a keynote. Mental storms, physical strife, hustling hard, repulsive life, race love, and the entrepreneurs climb real tall echoes, defying time. Experts and friends, a powerful blend, tackling issues that never end. From our perspective, raw and true, a podcast for all, but a point of view.
All right, here we go. So here's what I realized a while back. Most people aren't lying about their life. They're just editing everything. So you get a glimpse of what's going on, but you only get the good. You don't see the bad. Whether it be on social media, whether it be in person, a coworker, or anything. So you get the best of every person's perspective or their own reality. But what you're not seeing are the hard moments the setbacks. And we are too hard on ourselves because we judge ourselves. And the way we do that is we measure our progress, our lives, against others. If you were living on a deserted island, life might be a lot simpler. Very lonely, but it will be a lot simpler because you'd have no one to compare yourself to. You know, the highlight reel, they hide the true human story. And if we're really honest, a lot of us are struggling privately while smiling publicly. So here's one of the first things that I want to bring about. This has everything to do with regret. Now, I try not to live myself with any regret whatsoever. And I'm big on recommending to others to not think about, you know, what you could have done, what you should have done, what you could have said, or nothing like that, because you are where you're supposed to be. If anyone knows me, you'll know that's one of my favorite sayings. You are where you're supposed to be, whether it be geographically or where you are in life. So I don't spend too much time thinking about what I could have done. But in 2024, my father passed. He died in June of 2024. So this is almost 2 years. And the reason it hit me as hard as it did is because I had not talked to my dad in, I want to say, about 10 years. The last time we spoke, he had moved back to Haiti. He was upset about something that I needed to do for him, that I needed to handle, some kind of paperwork. I didn't get to it fast enough. And quite frankly, I didn't like the way he talked to me. And never reached back out to him. That was it. So that was it. I will tell you, my dad was very far from being the perfect dad. He was even further from being a good husband or even a decent one. He had a lot of faults, and he had some qualities, a lot of qualities. He was brilliant, he was educated, he was an artist, a poet. He was an athlete. So much of me comes directly from him. It's just, his genes are strong. You guys can hear the rain is getting heavier, but hang with me. So much of who I am comes directly from my dad. The good and the bad, especially the bad, because I see a lot of things that I deal with and that I struggle with, and maybe the way I handle certain things where I know that I might have lost my shit because I had his temper. I say had because I've learned to control that and, you know, curb that kind of behavior, because it doesn't help anyone, especially not me. But the reason I stopped talking to my dad was really stupid. It was really silly. And as a grown man, I will tell you that any man listening to this, and ladies, if you have a man in your life, a son, a brother, a husband, a boyfriend, I can tell you with absolute certainty that that man is always wanting his father to be proud of him. That man is always aspiring to do things that his father will be proud of, even if he surpasses his father in so many ways, like I felt I had mine. But there's always this thing where I want my daddy to see. You know? Think of it like when you're 5 or 6 years old and you look at your parents and you're like, mommy, look, and you do some stupid shit like a cartwheel. It's not even done right. And the parents kind of passively just, yeah, I see it. I see, great job. Or sometimes they don't even look up and they say great job, but the kid feels amazing because it's something about that feeling of admiration from someone that you look up to. It's an amazing feeling, and you as a grown man carry that. I have a good friend of mine who lost his father also a little earlier than I did mine, who says the exact same thing. And he says, he wonders if his father would have been proud of him and what he accomplished. Of course, the answer to that is yes, because he's someone that I personally look up to, and I wouldn't see any reason why that wouldn't be the case. But I think about what I've done. I think about something as simple as, well, it's not simple, but even family. Look at the wife I married. Look at the children that I have. My father never met my youngest daughter. She's 10. He's never met her. In fact, I can't remember at this point whether or not he knew that she was even born. I want to say that maybe she was a few months old when we spoke last. So at least he knew of her, but never met her. And I regret that. I regret not reaching out to say that I love him. I regret not reaching out to say that I forgive him for what, he could have done, should have done. Again, there goes that phrase again. But for his shortcomings. And he needed forgiveness from many of us, my brothers, my sister, my mother, and who knows, who else. And it's not my place to hand out pardons, but I wanted to personally let him know that I forgave him. Now, I don't know if my dad got wiser in his last days, but last we spoke, I don't know if that would have been received as I would have hoped, simply because my dad was the kind of guy from the last interaction we had who would say something like, "Forgive me for what?" Just totally unaware, just not realizing that he had his faults. And he'll be the first to say, "Hey, I know I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. I have my issues." But if I would have said, "Hey, Dad, I want to let you know that I forgive you," I can hear him. What the hell did I ever do to you? Not realizing. And I'm not going to go into what he did or did not do to me specifically, and it's not my place to talk about him as a husband and as a father to my siblings. But I do forgive my dad. And I wish I told him, whether or not it started another argument or whether or not it sent me, closing back up into my own shell, not to have this argument with him. It's something I wish I had done. When I got the news, I was doing a training. I had gone to Nashville for work, and I got the news, and I didn't know how to react. I was on my way to see a customer. I got the news. I pretty much moved on, went on with the appointment, remained stoic the entire time. It was 3 hours of me interacting with the homeowner and one of my sales reps, and just handling the entire thing without anyone knowing. And it started to creep up on me, almost like when you're getting a cold, you get that tickle in your throat, and then it gets you start to sneeze and you cough a little bit, and it just the symptoms start to get worse. As the day progressed, I just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and I had this feeling in my gut, and I felt guilty because I also felt that there was something wrong with me. Why am I not breaking down or crying, or why am I not emotional in this moment? How can I continue with work? But it was a shock of it all, because on the way back home, I had I want to say a 4-hour drive back to Atlanta, and I had a real hard time in the car. So I had to stop several times, but there was one particular stop at a rest stop. Turned out to be the most beautiful rest stop you've ever seen, if one could say such a thing about a rest stop. But there was a lake there, and I don't know. I hope I see that place again. And it was right at sunset, so the sun was coming down over the lake, and I felt that this beauty of nature was one last call from my dad. I don't know if it was. I have no idea, but I know that my dad also loved nature. He would often gaze at the wonder of God and say, look at God being this amazing artist, and talk about certain things and not take anything for granted. He would see a tree, he would see even a rock, and just talk about the shape of the rock, and how the average person might just, walk on by and just go about their day without thinking about any of this. But he would stop and smell the flowers, so to speak. So in that moment, I found that I was emotional and I could not stop crying. This went on for, feels like hours. I want to say I was there for at least 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. And the entire time I wept out loud. Thank goodness I was alone, and I talked to my father as if he were right there. I talked to my dad as if he were right there, right next to me. I asked for forgiveness. I told him I forgave him. I shared some things that I thought he would know or would want to know. And this went on for a little bit. So if you have a situation like that, if there's someone in your life that you wish you would say something to, think about my story. Because to this day, I still go on and imagine that my father's here. There are times that I accomplish certain things that I'm proud of, whether it be, in life or with family or whatever it may be. I feel at times that he's there, not even in a spiritual sense, just as if he's next to me, where I could just explain certain things and just have a conversation with him, which is really strange because we were close before we stopped talking, but not that close. We weren't best friends. We were cool, but not best friends. So my assumption was there will always be more time, because my father he died in his 80s, so you would think, it sounds batshit crazy for me to say I thought it'd be more time, but when I tell you my dad was healthy and vibrant and had all his faculties and could still even get on the soccer field, maybe his cardio wasn't the best, but he could still hang. I never thought he would go without us having a chance to reconcile, and me traveling, going to Haiti and having this conversation with him and spending time with him. Again, y'all hear the rain is coming down even harder. But yeah, just the hardest part of losing someone, it's not the funeral. In fact, his funeral was horrible because I couldn't go. I was the only person responsible for him. Not my brothers and sisters, not anyone else. He had no other family, really. He did, but it's a strange family in terms of there is no glue. And there is not this one thing. There is not the spirit of the hive. It doesn't exist in the family I come from. The family I create, yes, at least I'm trying, but not the family I come from. So I want to say my brothers sent me a couple of $100 to contribute. I think my sister also did, and my aunt and my mother came through a little bit, but the bulk of it, the expense really and the responsibility was on me. So I handled everything, and I could not go to Haiti because at the time, it still kind of is that way, but at the time Haiti was kind of rough, just go back in your Google archives and see what was going on in June of 2024. So we had to get a link, and I had to watch these people on camera while I was at work put my daddy in the ground. And I was dealing with some other bullshit at work, so I could not even afford to grieve in the right space. So yeah, time is ephemeral. It is not something you have. Yes, it is a construct, but in this body, in this physical human form, it is not finite for any of us. So do take the time to assess and take stock of what the issue really is, and make a decision, make a conscious decision on whether or not it is worth you losing someone without ever having closure with that person. I'm thinking of a quote from John Mayer. He says in one of his songs, "Say what you need to say before the moment passes." It's simple, nothing crazy. Just say what you need to say before the moment passes. The second thing that I've been dealing with, it seems like every time I turn around, say on the same subject of mortality, someone that I know or a friend of a friend of a friend passes. And these people are all in their 40s and 50s, sometimes younger. Some unexpected illness, something crazy, heart attack, you name it. And it's gotten me to a place of contemplation. What happens next? What do I truly believe? Am I sure of what I believe in? And fortunately for me, the answer is yes. And the more, to me, it's not even so much a belief. It's gotten me to a place to where it's a knowing or a remembering, which I'm very fortunate to have and feel every day. And also receive a lot of signs that help me with it helps me in a sense to where I feel serene. I feel at peace because I know what's next. But I had me to think for a while, because if you're not in a place where you're comfortable with death, there's a certain anxiety that I believe you kind of live through. Unless you're really, really young, and, a lot of people in my audience, they are really young, early 20s, and not really thinking about it, why should you? But if you're a little older, I recommend you find peace with what's on the other side. And for some people, I know it's religion. For some people, I know it's heaven. I even know of a few pastors who are selling real estate in heaven, which is the funniest shit I ever heard in my life. But it's out there. Whatever you believe in, I believe that it's a lot easier if you find more certainty in that belief. And if you're listening to this going, well, how can I be certain? Well, just ask people who are super religious, because they will argue with you that they know exactly what's going to happen. They know where you're going for not believing in what they believe, and they know where they're going. You need to have that kind of certainty. Find out, do some soul searching, because the answer actually lies within. And once you're comfortable in that place, I find personally that life for me has become easier that way. And I don't feel the anxiety that I used to feel in terms of rushing to accomplish certain things, because as things unfold for me, I feel they're unfolding to my benefit, no matter the situation. Like, the worst shit could happen, and I'm still here like, this is to my benefit in some kind of way. And I approach everything that way, so I'm super grateful for that. Seneca said, it's not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste so much of it. So be intentional. I guess that's my message here. Be intentional. Do what you want to do. Say what you want to say, as John Mayer said. But be intentional in your purpose, in your daily life. Even if it's just, look, I'm just sitting here chilling. I'm just going to sit here and think. What you don't want to do is have life pass you by and you don't realize where the time went, which happens to a lot of us. So be intentional. Write down some goals. Write down some plans. Don't be totally attached to the results. Just be focused on your journey and do everything to the best of your ability. Focus on your passion. And I don't mean to not be realistic and pragmatic. I just mean that if you focus on that passion and you do everything based on how you feel about this thing that you're totally driven by, you cannot do anything wrong. And if something doesn't quite work out, it's not meant to work out, because your higher self knows. The third thing I want to talk about today is financial struggles and debt. If you listen to this podcast or you know me from the outside, I look like I am killing it. And the closer you get to me, the more you realize, if I want you to know, if I don't want you to know, you're not going to know. There's nothing about me that says that I'm struggling. But if I'm going to be completely honest, I'm going to be completely honest on this on this podcast here, and let you know that I have struggled with debt for the past 4 years. It hasn't been easy. It's been an uphill battle. No matter what I try to do, has turned to absolute business shit. You're not alone. You're not struggling alone. As a man, when people are counting on you, it makes you feel like the worst piece of shit on the planet. When you can't deliver and you can't face your responsibilities, or you can face them if you want, but they're kicking your ass. Having an amazing wife who doesn't emasculate me, make me feel less than by saying, hey, I got your back. And not just saying it, but acting that way has, I can almost say, literally saves my life. I'm sharing something that I've never said to anyone, but it has literally saved my life, because when you're not able to be whole in that sense, when you're not able to accomplish what you know you're supposed to accomplish and face your duties and meet your responsibilities, you feel like you're not a complete person. You feel like there's a part of you that's entirely missing. And when you're young, it's okay to kind of figure it out and just I don't know, just kind of go around wondering, what your purpose is. But once you hit a certain age, I'm going to say personally, I think that age is 40. If you haven't figured out what your purpose is, I'll tell you exactly what your purpose is. If you don't know what it is, your purpose is to face your responsibilities. It is to take care of yourself and take care of others under your stewardship. It is to guide others, and it's not for you to just frolic in a prairie full of roses looking for happiness. It is to serve. That is your purpose, if you don't know what it is. If you know what it is, well, then you know what it is. It's none of those things that I just said. So in my case, I did not know what my purpose was at 40. So I was looking, and I realized much later that everything I just said was my purpose. I knew one thing. I knew I had responsibilities, and I knew I had to face them. And when you're not in a financial situation to where you could do that, or when you are in a financial situation to where you can, but you gamble it away by trying something bigger. That's something else that I take after my father. My father is a risk taker. He kept telling me, hey, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. You just watch. And he believed it through and through. To his core, he believed that he was going to be a millionaire. He would not die broke. So anytime there was an opportunity that others would see as, well, that's kind of risky or downright stupid, my father would say, shit, hold my beer. And he's in. I'm the same way. I don't do conventional. I don't do 9 to 5s. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an artist. I'm a businessman. But admittingly, I'm not exceptionally good at it. I'm learning. I read books. I listen to different podcasts. I try to go to different seminars. I am a glutton for training, and any type of knowledge someone can impart on me, I'm happy to take it. I used to have a big ego, not so much anymore. I guess I've developed my humility muscle that's allowed me to listen more and talk less. Obviously, you can't tell from this podcast, but in relation to others, I do my very best to listen and to learn and to observe. So I would take chances on a business, and I would fail. And see, what a regular person would do is say, okay, this didn't work out. Let me recalibrate and try something else, or let me get back to the conventional or traditional ways of making money. No, not me. Shit, I lose $20. I'm going to try and figure out how to make 50 real quick so I can gamble that 50 and try and make my 20 back and then some, because I still believe in the dream. And I would keep believing in the dream, especially when someone else was attached to that dream, because I'm not naive, but I do believe in other people. I believe in the honesty, and I believe in, if you say something to me and you make me a promise, I believe you. I believe in that promise. And in my 50 years on this earth, I have not learned to distrust. I still think that people are inherently good. And I do believe that if they lie to me, it's not because they meant to lie to me, but it's because something's changed and maybe they didn't have the courage to tell me. Now, I know that sounds silly as shit, but that's how I approached it in business for a while. So when I would fail, I would go again for round 2, get my ass kicked again, go deeper in debt, not be able to tell my wife or face my reality, and then I would jump in again with both feet to try to make up for what happened. And this was this snowball that kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and over the past 4 years it's been kicking my fucking ass. I'm just now coming out of this, just now, from 2022, just now, maybe even 2021, just coming out of it to where I can say I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm extremely optimistic. And not in the sense that I've been optimistic like a child who's dreaming in the past, but because I have put pen to paper, I've looked at a plan, I'm working for a different company as I'm building my business, so I'm not just putting all my eggs in one basket. And I believe I found the right vehicle to get me to where I should have been 10 years ago. But if you look from the outside, if you kind of look at my house, and you look at, what's going on, and yeah, you'll be impressed. But again, don't believe what you see. Now, I'm not out here showing it off. I'm not on Instagram posting my house, posting my land, and I'm not doing any of that shit. But if you're invited, if you come over and, you'll see it and you'll think that you won't know the struggle. And what's interesting about that is I say that because in my business now, or what I've done in the past several years, I'm in the service industry where I go to people's homes and I would prejudge the house. Some little piece of shit house, maybe it's a little shotgun type house or whatever it is, and I'd start prejudging these people. And those people have the money to do what they need to do, whether it be get on your roof, HVAC, they have an emergency fund. They just live a certain way for whatever reason. And I'll go into the nicest homes worth millions of dollars, and when it comes to getting my services, yes, they want to get it, and we try to finance those people, and guess what? Their credit was shit. They would not qualify because they are house rich, or they are house poor. They look like they have a lot, but they're totally house poor. Can't function, can't breathe. So don't look at others. Don't measure your life against other people. Don't measure your success against other people. I always say success has to be an individual. It has to have its own individual definition for each person. Now, within reason, right? I don't think that if you walk up to a homeless person, I don't want to sound all crazy woo-woo and shit and say, oh, that person is successful if they think they are. That's bullshit. No, that person is not successful. Let's be real. But if you have the basic necessities and you define success in your own way, whatever that is, then you're successful. So for me, for example, my personal definition of success is the following. It is my ability to do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want. So if I want a vacation, I don't have to beg someone to take time off. I don't have to wonder whether or not I could afford to go to the islands or wherever. Success to me is not, shitting in a goddamn golden toilet. That's not success to me. That's wasteful. That's stupid. It's not driving a supercar, a Bugatti, and changing cars every month. That's also wasteful and stupid to me. Now, it's successful. It is success for someone else who feels that it is. That's fine. But for me, if I could do whatever I want, whenever I want, with whomever I want, then I'm happy and I'm successful. So, what is your definition of success? What do you think it is? What do you feel it is? What do you know it to be? You know, I've learned that struggle doesn't mean failure. It just means that I'm still in the fight. So, you know, every successful person that I've ever talked to, I guarantee you, and they've shared this with me as well, there's a few chapters in their life they'd rather skip over. You know, so even when I did hit what I would call rock bottom, I realized right then and there it can always be worse. You know, I've never gotten to where I said, well, I've gone as low as I can, because I would think that and immediately get news of someone who was ill, terminally. Or I'd go out. I was in Vegas for almost a year. I was there for a long time with one of the business that I was fucked over by and totally failed. And I would go out, and there's a lot of misery in that city. You see a lot of homelessness, you know, people who just are doing horrible. And I would see that. I would take my last chunk of change and I go get me some breakfast at Denny's. And I would think about how, man, I'm not doing great at all right now, because I have to watch the price on the menu before I order. And I wasn't comfortable with that. I would be like, well, shit, I'm at Denny's. I should be able to eat. But I would look to see how much something cost. And then I would put it in perspective. Because as I was walking in, there was a man covered in filth right outside of it who had nothing. I was about to go inside and eat. And my only concern was that I was upset that I had to look at prices on the menu. You know, so rock bottom isn't the end. It is a foundation. You know, one of my favorite quotes I used to talk to my team about whenever they would be doing bad in sales, I would say, you know, it's not falling in the water that drowns you. It's staying there. This is not my quote. It's something that I've heard. And I was, you know, when people are in a rut, things are bad, I would remind them, falling in water is not enough to drown you. It's staying in that water. So it's about movement. It's about action. It's about perception. It's about you realizing that you are more than enough. It's about you realizing that you can get out of the situation. And also, as I mentioned earlier, when I first started speaking, I said that it is also understanding that everything that's happening in your life, it's happening for your benefit. If you approach it that way and think about what that lesson is, what should I get out of this? Why am I going through this? I know it's not bad for me, even though it appears to be that way. What should I do? How do I turn this into a positive? If you live that way, I promise you, things get easier, at least mentally, and that's where it all starts. Let's see. Finally, I want to talk to you about gratitude and what still matters to me. So, I started a journal and I started writing here and there a few things I was grateful for. And then I fucking stopped. And I gotta tell you, in that 1 week that I was doing it, I was feeling great, because things again will be in perspective. Not typing it on your phone, but pen and paper, and write down 3 things, 5 things, 10 things, even if it's the same thing that you're grateful for. I'm gonna go back to doing that, because that week, every day was amazing. Some horrible shit still happened, But I felt good about the fact that when I left my house, I wrote down that I'm healthy, that I was grateful for my health. I wrote down that my children were healthy because that's even more important than my own health. I wrote down that my wife was healthy. Again, I'd give my life for these people. So, and if they're ill, if something's going on, there's little to nothing that I can do to help them. So in that sense, every day that I wake up and there's no bad news, they're bouncing around full of life, I'm ecstatic. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for the fact that I still live in an amazing home that if people visited or saw they would think it's nice. I'll say that and leave it there. I'm grateful because I have an amazing skill set. I'm in sales. I will always work. If I'm fired or I lose an opportunity, by morning, I could walk into a car lot and sell cars that afternoon. I have literally walked into situations, into offices who weren't hiring and just said, hey, I want to see the president or the owner. And I was hired on the spot. Simply because I was able to talk myself into an immediate interview and then talk myself into a job that was not posted, that they had not even budgeted for. That's an amazing skill set, and I'm grateful for it. It didn't come easy. I had to learn it. People always say, well, you're a born salesman. I can tell you that's not true. I speak 3 languages, and English is my 3rd language. It is not easy for me to sit here and talk to you without thinking sometimes in my own language first before I translate what's going on in my mind into English. So when I'm in front of a customer and I have to give a 2, 3, 4 hour long presentation to help them understand that my product solves a problem that they are having, even though they might not even realize they're having a problem, it's not always easy to do. And I had to learn that. As I said, I had to become more humble in order for me to learn and do it the right way. But I'm grateful for that skill set. You know, I'm grateful for primarily how much I am loved. I know it sounds selfish, but let me tell you what I mean. My mother loves me more than I've ever seen any mother love a son. I am grateful for that. My wife loves me more than I've ever been loved by any woman. And I'm grateful for that. And she shows me every day. She's real. She doesn't fake anything. She doesn't mince words, which pisses me off sometimes. Actually, that shit's irritating as hell. But she is who she is. She's respectful, but she loves me and she shows it to me. This is a woman who should have left me 5 times already. We've been married 4 times. 4 years. Not 4 times. Shit. We've been married 4 years, and she should have left me 5 times. Now, each time there's an incident, and I don't mean anything with infidelity. I'm faithful to her and her only. I will always be. But just dumb shit. You know, I talked about the financial debt and the struggle. My wife's not used to struggling. She's a career woman. She's done great for herself. Getting with me, well, then you have to embrace my own struggle. And that's not easy. I'm grateful because between the 2 of us, I have 6 children. I don't have stepkids. I have children. And I'm grateful because they're healthy. I'm grateful because they're amazing. All in their own right. And I watch them develop and go on their own journey, sometimes with extreme frustration because I want them to do things a certain way and they are not doing it. And I realize that it's okay that they're gonna, they'll fuck it up a few times sometimes before they get it right. And that's okay. That's part of their journey. It's a journey they chose that they're on. And spiritually, I must respect that. I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that I have two amazing, beautiful grandchildren. My oldest daughter has twin girls, and they'll be 6 this in May. And I'm grateful I get to see that. I'm excited. I don't know if I'll be here, but I'm so excited about walking them down the aisle one day. So whenever I think about my longevity, whenever I think about when I'll be around or if I'll be around, I just picture myself walking one of them down the aisle, and it gives me my answer. And I'm already grateful for that day. The things that matter, they matter. The shit that doesn't matter, doesn't matter. I know that sounds really simplistic, but what I mean by that is we tend to twist shit around. We tend to take things that don't matter and we bring them all the way up. If there was a meter, scale of 1 to 10, we would think about a particular job, a particular friendship, a relationship, things that really shouldn't matter because they're not pouring back into you. And then we elevate those things. And that is not, it's not to your benefit. Focus on what matters. Focus on the things that serve you. Even in the hardest of seasons, there are things that are absolutely worth protecting. Your peace is one of them. The presence of struggle, in my mind, does not cancel the presence of blessings. And I have plenty of those. Purpose is something that I've come to grips with lately. Purpose for me has shown up through the chaos. It's through my turmoil. It's through everything that's going wrong or that's gone wrong in my life that I've found purpose. So sometimes it's what you need. So my closing thought. Don't forget you can't live without regret because you will have some, but make sure that you are focusing on the people that matter in your life and not let too much time pass. As far as other types of regret, I don't think it's, not that it's not real. It's just that you should not focus on something you could have done or said in terms of business or anything like that, or maybe you got into a horrible relationship and you regret the relationship. But remember that relationship and that heartache and turmoil shaped you into who you're going to be, who you currently are. Okay? Your financial situation, same. Don't live for others, live for yourself. And I'm not saying to quit early, but reassess and recalibrate. This way you can pivot in a way that it makes sense business-wise. Don't be like me, who just kept on gambling it away in a sense where I was making horrible decisions because I wanted to make up for the last decision. Be grateful every day. Show up. So my closing thoughts. If you're listening to this and your life isn't perfect, good. That means you're human. And it means you're still trying. You're still loving. You're still showing up. And if that's the case, then you're already doing much better than you think. Perfection is a performance. It really is. Because real life is messy, it's uncertain, and sometimes painful. Oftentimes it's painful. But it's also where the meaning is. I appreciate you. I thank you for listening. I love you. And if you need it, I am sending you my strength. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you next week.